Welcome to the Stay Curious podcast brought to you by Alpha UK. My name's Chloe and this is Alex.
This podcast is all about being open-minded, staying curious and fueling your intrigue. We're going to be hearing stories from people all across the UK and beyond. We're going to be covering big things, small things, the totally irreverent as well as the deeply theological. We hope you have fun listening along.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Curious podcast.
Welcome everybody. It is episode 2 of series 2, if we're going to give it that grander title, Chloe.
Sure.
I think we should.
Okay.
Rolling into series 2. Last week we had Ellie Linebear with us. We had our Christmas special a few weeks ago and we're into the throes of January. And thank you so much to everybody who has interacted with us on our podcast for sending in your... Well, we've been inundated with letters, Chloe. You know, fan mail... emails.
We actually have. I feel like an influencer. I've actually been sent like Christian books and stuff. Yeah, posted to me. I don't know, random stuff, but
anything decent.
Thank you so much for sending me all your things. So.
If you need us to go to the Maldives to check out that's the kind of influencer we're interested in.
Or expensive like face creams.
Yes, Temple Spa. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we were kind of expecting lots of stay curious questions, maybe some theological debates, but actually we're mostly getting 40 before 40 suggestions.
Yes.
For you, Al.
For people who don't know, for not regular listeners of the podcast, I'm turning 40 next year, and in an attempt to celebrate that, I'm trying to think of 40 things that I haven't done before turning 40. Either a challenge, a new experience, something like that. And last week I mentioned that I've totally run out of ideas, but people have been sending in some suggestions.
We've got some suggestions. We're going to go through a few, and then maybe we can pick one that you can do. Or two,
now?
or three. Well, let's see.
Okay.
So we've got go to a Fulham football game.
Yes, I think that was from my friend Nathaniel, who's got a season ticket to Fulham.
Sure.
He wants to take me. I'm happy to go.
Is that like a bad thing? Do you support Fulham? Or is it a good thing?
No, it's fine. I think watching
like
Fulham
football?
is quite... Well, I do like football. I was going to say what Fulham play. I'm not sure we'd call it that. No, that was just being inappropriate.
Oh.
No, my friend Nathaniel, who's very kind and a massive Fulham fan, has invited me to watch Fulham with him, which would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not really a major 40 before 40
No,
either.
but thank you very much, Nathaniel. Very grateful. Would love to spend time with you.
We've got a Race the Sun team challenge.
I really want to do this. So Action Medical Research do these challenges where you can, I think everyone should do this, you go away for the day and it's like on the Jurassic Coast or in the Lake District or in Wales, and you do 3 things a day. You like climb a mountain, paddle in like across a lake, and then do a hike and a cycle, and it's like a
before
challenge.
the sun goes down.
Yeah, from sun
nice.
till sun. Yeah.
You better do that in the summer because the sun goes down about 3:30 in Wales at the moment.
Yes, but most of them are available after 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah,
that
it's
is
dark all the time.
Dark and rainy.
Very dark and rainy.
So yeah, we'll book that in, but that might be after I turn 40, to be fair.
Okay, so not 40 before 40. A Tough Mudder.
Yes, interested in a Tough Mudder, don't want to pay for it. So again, if
Yes.
you...
Sponsorship.
Yeah.
Tough Mudder.
Happy to do a sponsorship and talk about it on the podcast.
We'll do that.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
And then write a song.
Yes, I am famously not musical.
Okay.
But this one, I think, is from my friend Chris, who wrote, if you've got kids or you particularly like children's television, he wrote all the music for the brand new Miraculous movie. Have you heard of that?
No.
Ladybug and Cat Noir? Not a
Sorry,
thing?
No.
Yeah.
I'm too young.
Yeah. My kids enjoy it. Anyway, it's a movie, and he wrote all the music, and he said he's going to help me write a song.
Great.
I would be interested in that.
Okay,
I
and
can't
so
sing.
would all the listeners. If you write a song, you have to sing a little bit of it on
Okay.
the podcast. Deal?
That is a deal.
Okay,
all right,
great.
I'll try and work on that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And we also start off the podcast with a question from the listeners. And this week we've had a question which says, I'm curious to know, what is the best Alpha story you've heard from last year?
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Do you have one, Al?
I've been doing Alpha, had a really good guest, actually a few good guests. Not like anybody who's come from atheist to like total transformed or like totally like come to faith, but lots of people had a really nice experience. We had a really good time actually in my Alpha group when somebody said, oh, if Jesus walked into the room, what would you ask? And it was really interesting because there are about 4 people who are people of faith, and all of them wanted to ask, how am I doing? Like, am I doing okay? I thought that was interesting.
That's nice.
A friend of mine is leading the course with me, and she's never done Alpha before, and she is loving it. She sent me, I texted her when I was away one week and said, oh, how was it? And she's like, I just can't believe these people just show up, like bringing their questions, not knowing anybody. She's like, it's actually the biggest privilege of my life.
It is
and
amazing.
When I've done Alpha quite a few times, and she's never led an Alpha group before, and I forget just how amazing it is. Like watching these people come in and like genuinely giving their life stories and like talking to each other. It's pretty, yeah.
It is amazing.
It's good, yeah.
So a story I'm loving telling at the moment is a guy who was a fresher. So in our church, we go to the Freshers Fair, and we have like Alpha banners and that kind of thing. And a fresher walked up and he said, oh, so what's all this about? And we said, oh, we're from a local church. We're running Alpha in the pub if you want to come. And he said, yeah, wasn't sure. He said, so what's Alpha about? He said, oh, it's a chance to explore the big questions in life and stay curious, try something new. Is there a God? And, what's your purpose? And his jaw dropped. He said, I cannot believe you just said the word purpose. I said, oh, why is that? He said, well, every day this week, purpose. It's just flashing up everywhere. And I've come to university and I'm going to study and then probably get a job. But what is my ultimate purpose? So he came on Alpha and he absolutely loved it. He discovered God's purpose for his life, became a Christian.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and now
sick.
He's helping run the Alpha for us this year.
Oh, that's much better than my random babbling. That's
No,
great.
yours
That's
was a
good
lovely story too.
That's great.
Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, a follow-up. Have you ever been guilty of flirt and convert? Have you ever heard of that? That is... Classic
No.
You. Yes.
No. I'm not going to talk about this on the podcast.
Flirt and convert.
No.
Snog and save.
No, I've never done that.
Too far.
Never done snog and snake, but
Flirt
snog.
convert.
Flirt
You're
to
flustered
convert.
now.
I didn't. This was not in our notes, Alex.
No, I know. I've surprised you. That was something that somebody said to me. I think
maybe.
that happened to me when I first went to Alpha, that somebody was trying to encourage me
Yeah,
to
see,
stay.
you didn't grow up as a Christian,
No.
but as a teenager,
You were taught
I'm not
to flirt and convert.
No, I wasn't then. No,
No.
I'm not going to talk about this.
Okay, I think some listeners should write in if they would like Chloe to prepare for next time a story of how she has how she has encouraged people into their journey of faith.
Sure.
Very good. All right, very good.
Let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We are very excited actually because a good friend of mine and becoming a good friend of Chloe's is with us today. Our friend Moshtaba is with us, or should I say, as you pronounce it, Moshtaba?
I mean, either way.
Either way,
Yeah.
either way is fine. Moshtaba is joining us. Moshtaba Husseini?
Yeah,
How do you say his surname?
Moshtaba Husseini.
Moshtaba is training to be a priest in the Church of England, and we work together a little bit.
Yeah.
But Moshtaba hasn't always been in England. In fact, you grew up in Iran.
Yes.
And then you were a refugee in Turkey where you met your wife, and then you moved over to the UK. And I am amazed, actually, increasingly hearing more and more of your story as what you have both been through, but also how God has worked in your life and the incredible stories of like seeing God's faithfulness. And we thought we really wanted to share it on the podcast for two reasons. Firstly, because it's the most incredible story, but secondly, because it reminds us of God's goodness. So welcome to the podcast, Moshtaba.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
You're welcome.
I've explained a tiny bit about your story, but just tell us, I've got a couple of questions first. You are from Iran.
Yeah.
That's how you say it. We were just saying before, people say Iran, 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 which I think sounds the best. But my classic joke about Iran...
Here comes Alex's best accents again.
Is you have to use the American accent. How did you get out of Iraq?
Iraq?
How did you get out of Iraq?
Iran, you mean?
No! How did I get out of Iraq? Iran.
Iran?
Yes.
Oh!
That's how it works.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I
How did you
didn't
get out
get
of
it.
Iraq?
Iran?
Very good. Very good. But you would say Iran.
Doesn't
Iran.
quite work.
Yes.
You have to use the American
yeah.
accent.
Oh, I didn't get your joke. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, but it's a good joke.
Thanks very
I can
much.
use it now.
Yeah, you can use it with more legitimacy. You grew up in Iran.
Yes.
And just for people who may not know, give us a little bit of context of what that's like growing up there, how it would be different to growing up in the UK.
Wow. Yeah. So I grew up in a big family. I've got 6. I'm one of 6.
Wow.
And yes,
That's,
big.
that is the first major difference to the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
One of 6.
Actually, the houses in Iran, they're big houses. I mean, becoming smaller and smaller, but still the house is so much bigger than houses in the UK. And one of the shocks I had when I came to the UK and seeing the house is so small. And even my mom's house at the moment is very big house. Like the living room is the size of the whole of my house now in the UK.
You're in London,
and
though,
whenever I
most of
have
it as
like
well.
a video call, with my mom, I think about it. Wow, that house is big, and it's just only my mom living there. My sisters, they moved out after they married, and yeah. So one of six, I grew up in a kind of Islamic environment because the main religion of the country is Islam, and it's forced people. It's like a dictatorship government. Everyone should obey Islam, and no other religions are free to practice their faith. And but I wasn't aware of the situation. I thought like every religions are free. That they can practice their faith because there are some like old buildings, church buildings in the city. You can see they were built before the Islamic Revolution, before 1979, I think, when it happened, by like Anglican missionaries or some buildings belong to Assyrians, Christians, and yeah. So I grew up as a nominal Muslim. I practiced a little bit when I was teenager, but it wasn't my thing. I stopped practicing it, and um, the environment was very controlling and oppressive. I mean, my first experience was when I started my primary school. So it's like boys and girls are separated. They have their own schools. But my first experience was when I was like 7 years old. The first day of school, they shaved every boy's head.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, I had such a weird feeling, like I was conflicted in my insides. What are they doing? Why are they cutting? I don't want to shave my head. And so it was like, growing up, you practicing that oppression from then. And I mean, all the boys were very unhappy. So they just shave your head. So that's how it works. And so I was kind of angry about it. So you just grew up in this kind of environment. And then you see it as you grow up in many aspects of your life, especially when I was like teenager. So I don't know, because of all the kind of funny Islamic rules they have, they just, I don't know, it's very interesting. They just against anything that is joyful, anything is colorful, anything is like makes you happy, like music. They really against music.
Wow.
They really against art. So artists, they really struggle with
Is it
their
because they
artworks.
think it would make you rebellious, or
Yes,
like it?
exactly.
Okay.
Because like art, everything just takes you out of the box, and art is kind of always wants to be like, for example, protest is a big part of art, and or going beyond the boxes or the rules, the kind of structures we have. So they don't like it, but. For example, as a teenager, if you want to date someone, like walking on the street together, holding hands, they have this police called morality police. They come and stop you, questioning you, and say, what's your relationship? If you're not engaged, they will lick you, put you in car, they arrest you and put you in detention, and you have to pay a fine, and they call your family, they come and collect you. And
So no flit to convert there.
yes, exactly. No. So you always had to do it like secretly, or like just constantly living in an anxiety. That is there any morality police around? So this just small examples of how you grow up with anxiety, oppression, sense of control. We are in control. We control everything, and you should exactly be what we tell you to be. And yeah.
It sounds a little bit like the television program Handmaid's Tale, where like there is, they have that sort of like such an controlling environment.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to practice Christianity, but you became a Christian in Iran.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, a long story. So I wasn't familiar with Christianity. I knew Jesus as a prophet, as Quran says, very special person in Quran because he has many miraculous works. You know, he raised dead people, he healed blind people, and these kind of things. And he was always loving. You know, he never married, which was very interesting. In Islam, even the Prophet has multiple wives, and the first wife was like 9 years old, which now is like a child abuse. It's just not legal. And so people hearing these things, oh, Jesus never married. Oh, amazing, you know? So I knew Jesus as a very good prophet, loving prophet, but never had the relationship with him. And also, especially, I had very difficult teenage years because of my brother. He's 6 years older than me, and his relationship with my dad wasn't the best relationship because my dad generation, most of them, they were struggling with many things. It was like after the war between Iran and Iran.
Iran.
Iraq and Iran.
And so, and also after the Islamic Revolution, the economic situation became really bad because of the political relationship between Iran and Western countries wasn't good, and yeah, it just the economic situation went down badly, and in my dad generation, many people lost their jobs, and my dad was one of them. When I was a child, we were really struggling financially. I remember some days we didn't have any money, and it was 6 of us, and yeah, so the relationship between my dad and brother wasn't good. So my brother became a little bit. First, he was like a rebel boy. Started just like making lots of troubles inside the house, mostly outside of the house, and he stopped going to school, which was very bad for him. He started to going out with bad friends, and became really violent, involved in lots of fights, and started using some drugs. Became really depressed, struggling with his mental health a lot, and he started to stay at home most of the time, and he was really kind of inside the house. He was really abusive, and I was the only son at that time, and the youngest, and he started like treating me in such a bad way. Every day, by some reason, he would become angry and just had fight with me, like treating me very badly, and it started to affect me as a teenager. I think it was like between years when I was 12, 13 till 18. The house situation for me was just, not only for me, for my whole family, it was just like a hell. There was no peace in it at all. And so I didn't want to stay at home, confront him, and I started to spend most of my time out of the house, and just starting to go out with my friends, hanging out with my friends, just doing negative activities, because my heart was full of hatred and anger towards my brother. I just wanted to express all the anger outside because I couldn't do it inside. First, I couldn't. He was very big. I couldn't fight him back. Second, always my mom would just tell me, "You calm down. You just go away and don't fight back." And so just because of my mom's peace and for my sister's peace, I didn't want to make more kind of conflict in the house. And so I started feeling really just angry, bitter constantly, just having lots of bad habits. And at one point, first, I was feeling really small and humiliated because of the way that my brother was treating me. And also, I started feeling really empty and meaningless because the problems was a lot, like a burden on my shoulder. My brother, the financial situation with my dad, and also as a young person in Iran, as I explained, young people, the majority of them, even now it's worse. They live with a huge sense of disappointment because they don't see a future for themselves. You can't follow your dreams. It's not easy.
So you're in a bit of a bad way.
Yeah.
Your brother was in a really bad way.
Yes.
So then, how did that flip into this moment when you, in a country where you're not allowed to experience Christianity?
Yeah. So my brother started to go to these meetings called Narcotics Anonymous, get rid of drugs. Someone was a converted Christian there who had such a miraculous encounter with Jesus, and his life completely changed. And actually, he had such a great story. And he spoke to my brother, gave him a gospel, like a New Testament Bible.
Wow, that would be really courageous in that environment, right?
Exactly. So he went to a church, the old building in the city center. It was an Anglican church. And in that kind of dream he had, he was overdosed by heroin. And in that moment that he was like between death and life, God spoke to him, go to church. And he went to church, he became Christian, and they gave him a book, Bible, in the church. So he gave the Bible to my brother, spoke to my brother, and my brother prayed with him. And it was that moment that I was struggling. I was 18 at that time. Just a few days before that, in my bed, for the first time in my life, I spoke to God because I became really curious about life, that in that emptiness I had. I was just questioning everything. What is the purpose of this life? Why I'm here? Where we going after I die? But mostly the questions was with a sense of hopelessness, and I was keep thinking about death. Whereas when I became Christian, I was still curious, but it was all with joy and with excitement, about life, about the life that Jesus has given me. But anyway, I prayed to God. I said, God, I don't know who you are or what you are. At this point of my life, I feel so broken and desperate that I don't care about your religions, I don't care about your holy people, your prophets, whatever it is. I don't know. If you are there, if you are alive, just save me. I can't continue. And a few days after this happened, that my brother prayed with this guy, and he was coming home. He was really calm and kind, asked me politely for like the things he wanted, and it was just so sweet, It's just experiencing that after so many years of conflict, fights. It was so sweet. So I became really curious. I saw the Bible in his hand, and on the Bible was written the good news of Jesus Christ in Farsi, and first of all, seeing a book in his hand was a miracle. So, what? He's reading a book. I can't believe it. And then seeing that kind of the good news of Jesus Christ, it just, I don't know, it just moved something in me. It brought a hope in my heart. And he was watching some videos about Christianity. One of them was a video two pastors were sharing about the gospel. And the title was God is Love. And just seeing the title, God is Love, was very radical. What? God is love? Never heard something like this. Because in Islam, the relationship you have with God is really like a master and servant.
Yeah.
I tell you, do this. If you not do it, there is a punishment. If you do it, there is a reward. But you never can have the good things, and you always live in this sense of guilt and shame. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. That's why this system of imams come in, that you always need to rely on these people who closer to God, and you always need to go to them, please intercede me to this God. And the whole corruption starts from there, because these powerful people control the weak people that feel guilty and shameful, and just start controlling people by their religion, they believe. So I was living in that sense as well. I 100% believed I'm a sinner, I'm going to sin. But as these two pastors were sharing the gospel, it was just like a nice breeze in a kind of, in a dark and is it damp
Yeah.
room, and just the air is like very old and bad smell. Just you feel this nice breeze, as they speaking of these beautiful words, that God loves you. You're meant to be in God's relationship, and He has given His Son. He died for you, and He wants to give you this new life, this salvation, and all these words was just like lift me up, and they start to say, if you want to get set free from bad habits, chains, bitterness, anger. And the animation was even on the video, the bad words was coming towards the pastor, and he was just touching them, and they would just disappear. And even that, I'm a very visual person, and that really helps me. And it was just like everything they say is just for me. And he made this invitation: if you want to accept Jesus in your life and experience this new birth in Holy Spirit, just pray with me. And my brother was sitting in front of me, and I didn't have a good relationship with him, and I didn't want him to see what I'm doing. And I just whispered the prayer, and as I was doing this, whispering the prayer, I just felt a lightness that I never experienced in my life before. It was just such a weird feeling. It was just like, it was so strange. Everything was happening, and everything they were saying, but at the same time, I felt so familiar with Christ. It was like I know Him for the whole of my life, and I just feel I'm like a lost child going back home. And anyway, it's a long story. Right after the prayer, I felt I am a different person, literally. Wow. First, I was very light, that I couldn't move easily, and then I just woke out my house as a habit, going hang out with my friends, and the first thing I remember, I just look at the blue sky. I say, wow, what a beautiful color. I saw like the green. It was just like God took all the negativity, and I just became positive, and I just became aware of the beauty around me. Wow. Where I was like blind with the whole darkness and bitterness and anger in my heart, So yeah, and then.
So you started then going to, is this right? You started going to a house church. You've been going there for a while, but if we're able to skip forward a tiny bit.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of practicing Christianity is not allowed. And so there was this moment when the house church was interrupted. Could you just talk us through what happened? You were worshipping in the house church, and then.
Yeah, so we were really we really wanted to see other Christians, and it wasn't easy to find one. We found some Christians, families, in such a miraculous way, and it was just Holy Spirit putting you all together, and so we had these regular meetings for a year, and it was 2 years after my conversion. I was 20 years old, and I was so passionate for Jesus. I was just copying the video I watched, giving it to people, and organizing this house group. And it was after a year, I was in my house early in the morning, very early in the morning. Is 7 a.m. early?
Yeah,
someone knocked on your door.
Yeah.
It's very early.
Yeah.
But my family were sleeping. I was getting ready for work, and there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and there was like 10 men was standing in front of the house. From the look, the intelligence service officers, they had a certain look. All of them, they had beard and very angry, always like grumpy, and from the what you call it, the radio thing they have. Make noises
like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, walkie-talkie.
I don't know if
and
that's
the handcuffs
correct
on the. They were in the plain clothes, and they weren't like in police costume. And he said, by the order of the court, we have to search your house. And I said, can I see the paper? And he just pushed me in the house, ran into the house. And my sisters, I've got 3 sisters. My sisters and my mom, they were sleeping, and started shouting, come out of the rooms. And it was very intense and shocking, and I was just literally I was so shocked. I said, what's happening? Wow. And they started to search everything that was related to Christianity, collected all the video discs, any sign of Christianity, any photo of Jesus, or the crosses we had. and some personal stuff as well.
And had you told your family you'd become a Christian?
Oh yeah, it was very obvious.
Okay, they
because
knew.
the changes in my brother was so obvious, and I mean, when okay, they put handcuffs on me and my dad and my brother and my sister. My dad and my sister became Christian after that as well.
Wow.
Yeah, they were also very keen, but they were really interested in Christianity as well. And when they were taking us out in handcuffs, my mom said, "Why are you taking them? Since they became Christian, our lives is so much better, you know."
Wow.
And the person says, "No, they cross our line, the red line, because here is a Islamic country."
Okay.
And
So that's why you were arrested, is because you were propagating the Christian
Yes.
faith. So how long did you end up in prison? How long did you spend in total in prison?
So yeah, on that day, they took me to this intelligence service detention center, and the whole time there was blindfold over my eyes, and literally I was just like I'm in a movie. I can't believe this.
And you're 20 years old at this point.
Yes, I was so young, and on that occasion they put me in solitary confinement for 22 days.
Whoa.
And during the time, I didn't have any contact with my family. I didn't know anything about the other members of the church, and not knowing what's happening and not knowing any news from your family, friends, it was so difficult.
Those
you know.
22 days must have felt like a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, solitary confinement, even in the law, every day of solitary confinement, they counted as 3 days of prison for you. But in Iran, they don't do it. For example, if they keep you in solitary confinement for a month, and if you got like 2 years sentence,
That would
they
count for
count
3
it for
months.
3 months for
Okay.
you. Because
Okay.
literally, I felt in that 22 days, I felt I'm away from everything for a year or something.
Then did they take you to court then?
Yeah.
So what happened in court?
So in court, because I was very young, the guy said, I send you to the big prison of the city for 2 days to just give you a lesson. I'm going to be kind of kind to you this time. Thank you so much. And they released me by bail. The bail was like at that time was $20,000 if I want to say in dollars. And normally when they bail you like that, people will put their like property
Yes.
document and stuff. And we owned the house, and so yeah, I was released by this bail,
Okay.
and they gave me 8 months prison sentence. And the sentence, the title was propaganda against the government by cooperating foreign organizations, means foreign organizations like Christians out of the
But
Iraq.
you ended up spending longer than 8 months in prison. So
So
why was
yeah, that was the first time actually.
that? Okay.
And so we continued as we felt really, the Christians, we were together, we felt like we are the true family. We are literally a family. We can't be separated. And it became evident to everyone that we are Christians. Before that, maybe some of my friends didn't know, some of the relatives didn't know. But after I went to prison, I was, why Mustafa is prison? We didn't know he's a criminal. And my family would say, oh yeah, it's been a while. I don't know, he's crazy. He became Christian thing, you know. I don't know why he has to go to church. Just be
But
Christian.
you carried on
Yeah.
practicing your faith.
Yeah,
Even
so-
though they told you not to.
Exactly.
Oh.
I mean, you know, going to prison was a big thing, especially intelligence service. People really terrified of intelligence service because they can do anything to you. And it was a big event for me as a young person going to prison. But the bigger event in my life for me was my conversion. You know, my conversion was so big and so sweet that I always say the bitterness of prison, the sweetness of Jesus' salvation overcame the bitterness of prison.
Wow.
So it was just like, even during that time, I was learning from Christ. It was a journey
Yeah, you
with
said
Jesus.
that there were moments when you were we had to go through certain things that made you feel close to Jesus.
Yes.
I think you said there was about when you first arrived and you were being processed.
Yes.
What happened then?
Yeah, so it was when going to big prison, you're going through the security gate and they take all your clothes off. And for me, it was really difficult to do that. I've never done it before, in front of others. And it wasn't in a nice way. It was very... I mean,
It wasn't in a nice way. I wasn't being
I don't think it would be.
nice way.
That sounds very weird.
I wasn't being interested in a nice way.
What I mean
I'm
is...
kind of pleased.
What I mean is, in this country, maybe the officers are more
Polite.
respectful.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
polite. Nice.
Yes,
It was
respectful. Yes, sorry.
yeah. Oh man. And like different officers sitting there.
Oh, I can't.
Sometimes
It's
other
unbearable.
prisoners would pass by, and it's just they were just horrible, treating you horrible. And it was so difficult for me to do that, and I became really, really vulnerable. Never been vulnerable in my life like that. But I closed my eyes, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I had this picture of Jesus naked on the cross, and who took all the shame, who took all that symbol of us being naked spiritually, that we are full of shame. But as soon as I closed my eyes, I just saw Jesus naked on the cross, and it was just like he's speaking to me that, don't worry, Moshtaba, like, don't worry, my son. I am the king, I am the Lord, and I am your savior, but I was treated the same. You belong to me.
Wow.
See where I am now, you are the son of the king. Don't worry about it. And it's just like, it wasn't, I knew in my mind that Jesus, was naked on the cross, but that moment I felt it deeply in my heart, and it was just amazing to have a savior like that you can identify with him in this kind of situation.
It's
But
like
it was
in,
very unique as well.
In the scriptures, when it says, consider it joy when you're persecuted,
Yes.
you can really take that to a whole nother level with your
Exactly.
experience.
Yeah.
So you were in prison for 8 months, let out on bail. But
No,
then
I
you
wasn't in prison for 8 months. They
Okay.
gave me a sentence, 8 months, but it was a suspended sentence. They say if you continue your activities within the 5 years, we will arrest you again
Okay.
and give you a new sentence, which happened when I was 24.
Okay.
I remember you saying similarly another moment where you really felt an affinity with the apostles when they said to you, when in the Bible they say to the apostles, just cease speaking about Jesus.
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
say,
yeah.
and that same thing happened to you.
Yes, exactly. I literally said the same words. It was the second time I went to court. When I was 24, I was arrested again in our house church. So our number from like 10, 15 people increased to 150, 200 people.
Wow.
And we had many small groups around the city. And which they raided the house groups we had. And they put me in solitary confinement for a month, which was very hard and many experiences, very bad experiences also. I had many very special moment with God that I learned a lot. And I went to court. When I was 24, again, they sent us to court. And they say, oh, this time you're not going to see outside for a long time, which was like 3 years and something. They put me in prison for 3 years. But for the first time, when they say you're not allowed, when you go to prison, you're not allowed to speak about Jesus and you just stop evangelizing. And I said the same words that it was 7 of us, being with the other Christians and the community was very helping, If I was alone, I always says that I couldn't make it like this. It was the power of being together, and the power of like the essence was that essence of love and being a family really helped us to go through this. And I said, what is it? How I don't know how to say it. You
Why
said,
should we obey you over God?
yes,
Yeah.
In
exactly.
English,
In English, I mean. He says, yeah, the God's law is higher than man's law.
Yeah.
And the guy, I remember how he became really angry. They would become really angry because they knew we are the power, we are the higher power. Everyone should obey. Everyone terrified of us. Why you not terrified of us? You know, I mean, even the second time, they were more aggressive and angry because we didn't afraid them. You know, we weren't afraid from them.
And that's when you said that, when they said you gave that line back.
Yeah, and I remember even my friend, he said to Judge that, you know, one day, even if today you don't obey Jesus, one day every knee will bow down and every tongue will confess him. So it's good that you do it now. And it was even me. I said, okay, calm down.
Like, it makes me wonder if, like, I would have that conviction if my faith was. I sort of feel embarrassed if somebody's a bit difficult with me as a friend from university and asks me about my faith. I'm a bit awkward. It's like,
well, it's such a challenge to us in the UK where sometimes we feel so embarrassed or shy to invite. And, you know, research at the moment shows that people in the UK are open and they want to come to church and they want to know more and they are curious. But actually sometimes the fault is with us as Christians that we don't have the guts to share our faith. How does that make you feel?
Yes,
Is that coming now to the UK and living here in a Christian context?
Yeah.
Do you find that difficult or frustrating with Christians who might not share their faith or feel embarrassed to invite someone to a service or Alpha?
Yeah, sometimes. Because, you know, it all depends on the journey I had was a journey with Christ himself, who was persecuted. And Christ was in the center of everything I was experiencing. For me, it was like a contrast of faith and fear constantly. And the fear was me, the faith was Christ. I need to explain a little bit. It's just like everything was based on grace. I was just living by my fear with my all weaknesses in prison and during this persecution, and he would constantly come and fill those like holes, the weaknesses I had, and I was experiencing him, and that's why he became the center of he became the hero of this story. So the encounter of let me put it in this way, the intense encounter with Christ will bring the intense discipleship. The more you encounter him, the more you follow him. So it's all related to him. I can't really speak into that, when I came to this country, why people moaning about this or complaining about this? Because I was the same. It was Christ who was carrying me during that time. It wasn't my strength or my kind of power. It was Christ's power. I think the reason that I was following him more, maybe I said in this way as well. You know, I think the key of encountering God in a powerful way is brokenness. When you break, when you come to this point of your life that you say, I had enough of this. It doesn't work anymore. Or I'm done. My ability, my knowledge, everything is just, I don't know. I'm done. And I was in that point of my life that Christ and saved me. Maybe in this country, we don't realize we are broken because we cover the brokenness with all the beauties around us, the comfort or everything we have in the culture. Even nice intellectual ideas, we start sometimes. Your sin become your weakness. You know what I mean? You don't see it as a sin. You see it as a weakness. Oh, it's just me. You know, you just label yourself with some psychological labels. Oh, I'm just this. You don't know that. You need to repent about it. So you cover that weakness or brokenness.
And so it stops you. It's like a barrier to actually encountering all that God has got for you because we just cover it over ourselves.
Exactly.
Do you ever find that you are less anxious about small stuff? Because like, what are you going to do, arrest me? It's like, you cannot possibly take me to if you're late handing in an essay, or do you just still worry about that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, yes and no. I think faith And living in faith is a daily thing. It doesn't matter what you've been through. Your experiences is not defining you. It's the daily relationship with God you have will define you and will give you strength. I can be anxious about something anytime, but I know that in that moment I should go to God's presence and ask for His help. So I have a particular experience after prison, after 3 years coming out. I was struggling with post-traumatic stress,
Yeah.
and I became depressed. In that silence, in my room, the whole voices was coming, the whole memories, the whole pictures coming up, sometimes nightmares, and it really affected me. And I just started to struggle with small things, becoming angry. My tolerance was very low, and I just felt, oh gosh, what's happening? I had a contrast in me, and I started to speak to God. I said, I stood in front of the judge, testify like that. I was among criminals. The prisoners coming to Christ in such a miraculous way. This, that. And why I'm struggling, why I'm so weak. And at one point, I couldn't feel God, I just couldn't feel His presence. And I felt really, again, I felt the emptiness that wasn't, I hadn't experienced it for a while. And I was so confused. And I remember one day, I was just literally praying in a frustrated way. And God spoke to me, and it was really healing. It was like he was speaking to me very serious, like a serious dad, but in a loving way. I don't know the word now, I can't remember. But he said this, Mustafa, remember, you're not the hero. I am the hero. I am the hero of your story. You are the same Mustafa today with the whole amazing experiences you had as a Christian, standing on your faith. As I said, it was all Christ. He's as Paul says in Colossians chapter 2, verse 20, it's not me living anymore, it's Christ in me live, And he said, if I leave you right now with my Holy Spirit, you will be the same depressed, broken, desperate Mustafa that had no meaning in his life. I am the meaning of your life. You are being defined by everyday relationship you have with me. I love you, you are my son, and the love that Jesus has proved on the cross for you hasn't changed. So just I embrace your struggles and start finding me in these struggles. And God was faithful, sent some very good people in my life, some pastors that guided me through that struggles I had. And actually, it started to a journey for me to become interested in mental health, and because after that I had to leave Iran, became a refugee in Turkey, as you mentioned, and that brought, so it was very interesting. I lived in my house. I never rented a house because we owned a house, and we had a workplace. My dad had a big workplace, and we owned a couple of properties, and I had to leave literally with a luggage going to Turkey. I don't know the language, and I don't, where should I go and stay? I stayed with a friend for 2 months, and I had to find a house, found very little, a small room, lived there for a year and something, and lived with another person. And it was just constantly moving houses, and being treated as a refugee in Turkey by the police wasn't pleasant at all. And I was just thinking, why I'm going through, why my life changed, and I was struggling with life. Becoming a foreigner in another country, even coming to the UK was the same. You are dealing with lots of anxiety, become isolated, and just when you leave your country, you just feel a hole in you, a place in you. You just leave a place, a part of your heart in your country, which is strongly connected to your childhood, your memories, and everything. And So mentally you're dealing with lots of stuff. And I kind of give up and kind of, I don't know, just break down, I became curious about everything was happening to me. And I started like watching lots of videos about like lots of TED Talks I started to watch about like dealing with different stuff like loneliness, or like as a foreigner, what you experience, or like the trauma. And I learned a lot, and I started to feel I'm connected to different people now, you know, and that curiosity really helped me it became like a healing for me, instead of just say, oh, poor me, look at me going through all this stuff. It says, where is God in this? Or what do I need to learn? You know, what tools I need to learn? And God came and gave me lots of kind of taught me many stuff, and I found myself that as I speak, people can relate to what I'm saying, and I'm blessing others through my bad experiences I had, or negative experiences I had, especially in faith context.
Mashallah, you have been a blessing to us today.
Oh,
and
thank
you are the most incredible guest to have on the podcast, not only because I feel like my faith is totally challenged, but also I just want to like do an entire 10-week series, like hearing all I want to hear everything. It's like amazing how God has been at work in your life, and we're very grateful that you've been a guest on our podcast. We could have carried on talking all day, but otherwise the microphone's going to run out of battery. But, we're really grateful you came and shared. Thank you so much for telling your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was very fun.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
We loved it.